RUF Daily Devotional.
Hello, hello. Happy Monday. It's the day after Easter. Happy late Easter to you. Easter yesterday was glorious. It was awesome. It was a little weird, but no less amazing. And I was just thinking about this. I feel like Easter is a harder holiday to celebrate unless you really understand what it's about, unless you really understand the gospel. I mean, like Christmas, for example, has kind of been co-opted by American commercialism, and you can kind of gut Christmas from its meaning. I mean, I don't think you should, but you can see why so many people would get excited about Christmas. You get presents, and it's kind of sentimental, and you have the lights and the songs and the memories. But Easter, I feel like we've tried to co-opt Easter with commercialism, but like the Easter bunny and the chocolate is just not catching on as intensely as Christmas does. And because I don't think you can really understand what Easter is about and really celebrate it unless you're willing to grasp the gospel that God raised somebody from the dead. That's quite a claim, and that's harder to commercialize, even though we've tried. And so what I want to do just briefly is, I mean, there are so many implications we could talk about the resurrection, how death does not get the last word, Satan does not get the last word, coronavirus does not get the last word, Jesus gets the last word. He wins. Death dies. Life in Christ reigns and is victorious. But here's an implication I want you to think about just briefly, is this. The New Testament talks about that the same power that God used to raise Christ from the dead is the same power that is at work in people who believe in Christ. That's a crazy sentence, but it's straight from the Bible. Look at Ephesians chapter 1, verse 18. Paul is praying that you may know what is the hope to which he has called you, what are the riches of his glorious inheritance in the saints, and what is the immeasurable greatness of his power toward us who believe, according to the working of his great might that he worked in Christ when he raised him from the dead and seated him at the right hand in the heavenly places. Now, here's what he just said. He's just saying that Paul wants you to know the immeasurable greatness of God's power, which is the same power that he worked in Christ when he raised him from the dead. It's in you. You have access to resurrection power. Yesterday, we bought our kids some little toys for Easter morning, and one of the toys that we bought for Reed was this not Lego, it was a Death Star thing that needed batteries, but we just now realized when we open it up, batteries were not included. Frustrating. So I had to dig around in our drawers to find extra batteries and take batteries out of the remote control for our television to put it in this thing. But for a Christian, you don't show up with batteries not included. There's resurrection power built into who you are by virtue of your connection to Jesus. This is why being a Christian is so much more like being Spider-Man than it is being Batman. You know, Batman, he's awesome. He's a cool dude. But he's just a dude. He's just a guy that has a lot of money and he's got some gadgets. But, you know, Spider-Man, you know the backstory. He was bitten by this like radioactive spider. And so now he has these powers. He can shoot webs out of his hands. He has this weird spidey sense. He can climb buildings. Being a Christian is so much more like being Spider-Man than it is like being Batman because you are connected to Jesus in his life, his resurrection life. That same power you have access to. So the question is, okay, power to do what? Power to climb buildings? Power to fight crime? No. You have the power to walk in the ways of Jesus. You have the power to choose kindness when everything inside of you wants to be irritable and moody. You have the power to forgive when everything inside of you wants to hold grudges. You have the power to be patient when you feel impatient. You have the power to feel gratitude and be grateful when everything sucks. You have the power to trust God when it feels like the world has been turned upside down. The power, you have the power to love others in small and obscure and unnoticed and thankless ways. That's what you have the power to do, the power to walk in the ways of Jesus. This is not just the life that God invites you into. This is not just the life that God calls you into. This is the life that he also equips you for, and he empowers you to do, because, and based off of, empowered by the very resurrection of Jesus. That's good news. Maybe walk in the ways of Jesus in the light of the resurrection today and this week.